Max and I, we weren't going to talk about this because it's no one's fault. This is why we didn't bring it up yesterday. It's no one's fault, and we don't want anyone to get into trouble. But Max just reminded me. So we rented a car and drove to DC, me and Max and Heather, in, I think it was a Nissan Armada, it is in fact the size of an Armada. Okay, like you feel like you're coming in to invade the Capitol in this thing. It was monstrously big. So I said to Max, why don't you meet me at the Hertz rental car place and bring your license, and that way we can both be drivers and we can take turns driving. He's like, sure, no problem. So he gets there before me. Take it away, Max, while you were waiting for me.
So I get there a little bit early. I guess the place opened at 9:00, and there's a guy sitting on a seat out there, and he is a driver for the company. He goes, yeah, the guy that's supposed to be in the office, he had an accident this morning, so he's running late. And all I could think was, this is so Bob and Sheri already.
It's so Bob and Sheri.
Sheri does arrive, and then finally the guy arrives, and he's about 15 minutes late, and then we go in, and the thing is, because he's late, it's bedlam in there. And
he's the only employee, and all of these people are piled up and waiting for him. Bless his heart. So he takes care of me and Max first, because we were the first in line. And Max gets his driver's license, and I was like, all right, you go home and I'll finish checking this out, and then I'll come pick you up at your place. Great. Max leaves. People are pouring through the door. This poor man, he's all by himself. He's the only Hertz employee. And he says to me, I'll be 1 second. I'm just going to run out and get your vehicle and take it through the car wash. I said, oh, you don't need to do that. He goes, no, I really have to do that. And so he goes outside, and now the lobby is filled with people. And the phone is ringing, and it's ringing, and it's ringing. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stepped behind the counter, picked up the phone, and said, Hertz Rental Car, South Boulevard. Will you hold, please? Hertz Rental Car, South Boulevard. Will you hold, please? So I put all these calls on hold, and I had listened to this man talking, so I knew some of the rules. So I picked them up. Thank you for your patience. What is that? No, you can only use your debit card at the airport counter. Please hold. Thank you for your patience. We'll be with you shortly. Thank you so much for your patience. Someone will be with you shortly. The man and all these customers are watching me do this. And one of them is like, yeah, Queen, get it. I was like, you bet. I'm helping my man out here. He's had a tough day. He was in a car accident on the way to work. Everybody's mad at him. The guy comes back in and he's like, here's your keys. I upgraded you. And I said, great, thank you. Okay, like you have calls on hold on 3 lines, and that one has a question about the airport. He's like, thank you. I said, anytime, you're welcome. And took my rental car and drove out of there and went and got Max. That is how crazy things are in the world now. You can just, as a customer, just go behind the counter and start running the place if you need to. It was insane.
I think you're right.
It was insane.
Use the Talk Back feature on the free Bob and Sheri app and leave us a message.
Mary and I had such a fantastic time on vacation. We were looking forward to it all year long. We went to Maui. I had not been there in many, many years. We got a great hotel, and one of the services that the hotel had was they've always got a couple of young men who will take you within 4 miles of the hotel, like take you to the beach or take you over to a shopping district or wherever you need to go. It's about 4.5 miles, and it's free. So, you tip them every time, but you don't get charged for it. So we decide that we're going to go shopping one day, and we go up to the place where the cars are. And there's this guy, I'm going to say he's around 23 years old, 22 years old, something like that. He is so handsome. He's a native Hawaiian. He has lived his entire life in Maui. And I'm telling you, if they were going to do, well, let's just say Hawaii Five-0 reboots and they need a handsome Polynesian detective, this guy is getting the job. He's so handsome. So we get in, and he turns around. He's got a great smile, and he's really friendly too. I mean, he's got it going. And Mary starts chatting him up a little bit. Oh, well, where are you? Have you lived here forever? And they're having a great conversation. And so we get out and we go shopping. And I said, well, David certainly made an impression on you, didn't he? And she said, what do you mean? I said, you really enjoyed talking with David. Oh, stop it. Just stop it. So the next day we go out again, and there's David. And so I know I've got to tip him. And so he's driving along and Mary's talking with him. And I take out a 5 and she looks over at me and I said, go ahead. You go ahead and tip your boyfriend here. Tip David. She goes, get that away from me. Get that away. Stop it. And I was kidding her about it all week long. He is such a great kid. And here's what I learned about living on an island like Maui. Maui is a big island, not the biggest. I think it's the second biggest. There's 164,000 people who live there. And Mary asked David, are you dating someone? Do you have a regular girlfriend? Are you married? He said, no, I was dating someone. But one of the problems of living here is you know almost everybody. Like I was dating this girl and I discovered that 3 years earlier, she was in a relationship with my cousin. And he said, it just freaked me out. He said, you almost have to leave this island to find somebody you didn't go to school with, to find somebody your cousin didn't date. You have to almost take a plane over to Honolulu or one of the other islands to meet somebody that probably was not a part in some way of your world. That really kind of surprised me. I've never thought about people who live in an area where there's not a lot of coming and going because there's one industry, the hotel industry. You have a hard time meeting somebody you didn't already have a connection to.
You think of that being the case in small towns, but on an island, it's really pronounced because you can't just, you can't just get in your car and drive to Minneapolis or whatever. Like you're on an island. Wow.
I mean, if you're in a small town, let's say in Nebraska, you can, just like you said, you can get in your truck and you can, drive to the next state, or it may take a while, but you could, go there for the weekend and all. The island, man, everybody knows everybody. They know everybody's business, who got hired, who got fired. And even though it's paradise, I would find that a little bit, I don't know, confining.
There's a part of it that's so appealing, this idea of having a community that you're a part of like that, where everybody kind of knows everybody and you knew their grandparents and all that. Like part of that is really appealing. But yeah, the dating thing, that is because not only are you dealing with the small population on the island, but the small population of people around your age who are single and attracted to you. And it starts getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Bob and Sheri books, swag, and the mother of all mothers merch. Just hit shop at bobandsheri.com.
I started my day with a panic attack. And Max and Lamar and Doc will immediately know why. I got out of the shower this morning and I heard it very faintly from downstairs. Beep. The smoke detector battery. Now, I know you're wondering. I know you're wondering, like, hey, girl, grow a set. It's just a smoke detector battery. Why are you having a panic attack? Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I'm having a little panic attack. Because a couple weekends ago, we went to a conference in Washington, Bob. The weekend that you and Mary left for your fabulous Hawaii trip, me and Max and Heather and Doc and Lamar and Tony went to this conference for podcasters. And we stayed at a Verbo house that I booked. And the Verbo house smoke detectors started going off in the middle of the night. And the ceilings were too high to reach them, and there was no ladder. And I couldn't find a broom or anything to beat it to death with. So it went off all night long. I eventually gave up and tried to, it was in my room, went down and slept on the couch where Max found me the next morning.
I went out for a walk and I went, why is Sheri on the couch? And then I went, oh my God, we screwed up and she doesn't have a room.
So I reach out to the owners of the Verbo house and I'm like, my dudes, I can't reach the ceiling. There's no ladder here. Can you come and deal with this? And the guy tells me, I'll try. I don't have a ladder. And I'm thinking there might be a hardware store in the greater Washington, D.C. area that sells one. But, what do I know? right? So we leave the house, we come back. Not only is my smoke detector going off, but now the one in Doc's room is going off. And so I reached back out to the owners and they were like, oh, we still haven't found a ladder. They showed up at 8:45 p.m. that night.
Oh my God. The worst hosts ever.
And the guy said to me, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to change the battery or just take it out of the house? I said, could you just take it out of the house? Because now I've been awake 24 hours without sleep. Just take it out of the house, okay? Because I'm going to kill somebody with my hands. And now, okay, so now mine's not beeping, and Doc's isn't beeping, but then the one in Tony's room goes off. And now
they all were
beeping.
changed at the same time. Yeah.
Except when the guy finally found a ladder, which is not easy to do because, as everyone knows, the Washington, D.C. area is very sparsely populated. There are no stores or paved roads. Yeah. He, instead of fixing all of the batteries, he only took mine out of the. So I go back into Verbo to message him again. And I'm like, hey, here's the thing, blah, blah, blah. Now this one's going off. And this man had the great big concrete cast iron cojones to say to me, don't you live in a house? Can't you deal with this?
Whoa.
To which I said, I do live in a house, but even standing on a chair, I can't reach your ceilings. And do you want me in an exhausted rage bashing at your property with like a big stick? Because that's what's coming next. When we left, I was the last person to leave. Everyone left before me. I was the last person to go. And as I locked the door behind me, you know what I heard? Beep.
Again. That's like out of a movie. It's a Stephen King horror movie. Oh my God.
And clearly,
what an arrogant guy.
Clearly, we're not the first person because in the room Heather slept in, there were wires dangling from the ceiling. A previous guest must have been tall enough to get up there and rip that thing out of the ceiling. So now it's time. Now they're like, would you like to leave us a review? Oh, I would. Very much.
Yes, Mr. Premier Host, I would love to.
I mean, it's a great house. It's a really nice house. We all had private bathrooms. It was great.
It was a great house, except for the beeping.
Instant access to the podcast, podcast, fun size, and more with the free Bob and Sheri app.
Kevin and I celebrated our anniversary a little bit late. Our anniversary is on August 16th, but we had a lot of things going on in the family, and it was just kind of chaotic. And so we've developed a new tradition anyway. It just kind of works out that the end of every summer, we do a little road trip. We start wherever we are, and we do a little road trip. So like the year that Podcast Movement was in Texas, we did a little road trip through New Mexico and Arizona. And last year we celebrated one year we celebrated our anniversary in Santa Fe. Last year, we celebrated our anniversary in Durango. This year, we celebrated our anniversary on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And I was thinking, we got married in 2013. And I was like, Kev, congratulations. I have now been married to you twice as long as I've been married to anyone else. What do you think about that? What a milestone.
Yeah, he gets an award or something, huh?
Oh, I still haven't caught up to him. Kev and Joni were married for 17 years, so it'll be a minute before I even catch up. And I don't expect to be able to double that record. But for someone that has not had great judgment when it comes to men and relationships and has often had a hero complex, I'm going to fix that boy. The fact that I've managed to double my previous record, I don't know, Bob, that feels kind of like an accomplishment.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
That's promising.
No,
that's very promising.
That's fantastic. Sure. Good for you.
You know, it's funny how many people in my life hit the 17-year mark, and that's where it imploded. My parents were married for 17 years. Kev was married, and you know how I feel about his first wife. She's like my sister, man. She's my ride or die. They were married for 17 years. I know a lot of
I was married for 17.
17 years, yeah, to your first wife. Yep. I think that was Bob's number too. What is it about
it wasn't.
year? Was yours longer or shorter?
Yeah, it was longer.
It was longer. What is it about year 17?
I didn't say
about
that.
what is it about year 17? You're so close to 20 and you made it across the 15-year finish line. Like I have a family member who made it 17 years and then it was just done. And I wonder if that's just random and a coincidence or if there's something about that number. Like Lamar, cuz you're really tight with your first wife too. She's like family. So you can talk about this, I think. What do you think 17, what do you think that year had going for it?
Lamar.
And there we go.
Lamar.
I think we lost him.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. That's my fault. That's my fault. Hit the wrong button. I'm just new to this. I don't know. No, if I'm not mistaken, I'm almost positive Carla was married 17 years also.
I think she was. Yeah,
That's really
now that you
weird.
say that.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. I don't know. I can't. There's just I don't know.
Is it
weird.
because you get to a certain point involving your children?
That's what I'm
Maybe.
thinking.
Yeah, maybe. Like, isn't it weird though that all these people, when you sit back and think, you go, yeah, 17 years. What is it about that number? You hear of like the 7th inning stretch, the 7th year can be really difficult in a relationship. But year 17 seems to be a make or break kind of a situation. And I don't know why that would be.
Yeah.
You know, like for my parents, I know it had nothing to do with their children because nothing ever did. But maybe it was different. Maybe it was different for y'all. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
No.
It's
just
an interesting number
that was-
because
Yeah.
it's a substantial number. You know, sometimes somebody will get married and it was just, you know, in a rush, in you know, the heat of passion. And then they find out 5 years later that they can't stand each other, or, you know, there was some major mistake was made. One of them really wasn't ready to get married, whatever the reasons are. But 17 is a substantial number.
Like
I
you're really
wonder
invested. You're really invested
Yeah.
by
It
year
means it wasn't a
17,
fluke.
right?
It wasn't a fluke at
Yeah.
17. It wasn't a fluke. Yeah, it was. It
Right.
was a
So
serious
here-
thing.
So here's my theory. I think a lot of people do really well. And then in time, they just begin growing in different directions. And maybe year 17 is when that difference is so pronounced, right?
Yeah.
Sign up for our newsletter. We never spam you.
Never did.
Get Bob and Sheri exclusives. Just go to bobandsheri.com.
No, we've been talking about traveling and flying and some of the problems you come up on with some of the airlines or whatever. And so on the last trip that I took, when I got to the line to go through security, I give them my stuff, and I'm in the line for the TSA deal, and they go, "You're not TSA approved. You don't have it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, it's not on your ticket." I said, "Well, I paid for it." And they said, "Well, you'll have to go get it changed." So I got out of line. I go back downstairs. I go to the counter. The lady looks at it. She goes, "Yeah, this happens a lot." She says, "Let me fix this for you. Won't be a problem." And I said, "Well, I've got a returning flight. Can you make sure that's fixed?" And she says, "Absolutely." She said, "But you need to check on it because it could mess up again." And I said, "Okay, thank you so much." So I go back up, go through line. Everything's great. So I go on the trip. And so I head back to the airport and I go up. And before I go, that night before, I look on my check-in thing, and it does not say TSA on there. It doesn't say that I've got that, the pre-check. It's not on there. So I go online. I try to fix it. I can't fix it. I call the airline, and the lady says, "Nothing I can do for you." She said, "But just shut your phone down, bring it back up, and maybe it'll show up." Well, it didn't show up. So I get to the airport, and I go get in the line for customer service. So I walk up, and the line that I'm in is they're checking luggage in, and they're doing it, whatever. And I said, "This is the wrong line in it, ma'am." I said, "I need to talk to somebody about fixing my TSA." She said, "Yeah, go over there. Customer service is right over there." So I go over there. There's nobody in line. I step up, and the lady is sort of like going to McDonald's, and that person doesn't want to be there. They
Yeah.
don't want to hear what you got to say.
Your
And
troubles.
I said, "Ma'am, is this customer service?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "Look," I said, "here's my passport. Here's my thing." And I said, "My pre-check is not showing up." And I said, "This happened to me on the come-in flight. I need you to," she goes, I can't do that." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "We don't do that here." And I said, And I stepped back and I looked up and I said, I'm not trying to be anything, but is this customer service? And she said, yes, it is. And I said, I'm a customer. And she goes, okay. And I said, you're customer service. And I said, the airport that I came from, I went to customer service and they fixed this. And she says, well, it's nothing I can do about it. I said, well, here's everything I've got. And I said, she said, well, I can't even look up your number, your TSA number. And I said, well, I've got the TSA number. And so she goes, okay, tell it to me. And so I tell her the TSA number and she punches it in. She looks at it and she hits a button and a boarding pass comes out. And she looks at the boarding pass and she looks at me and she hands it to me. And I said, is this going to work? She goes, yeah, I fixed it. And I said, okay, whoa, thank you so much. It was just amazing to me. Customer service. And she's like, I can't do anything about it. Well, I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, I'm the customer. You're the service. Let's get together. Let's make this work. Let's work this out. I mean, oh my gosh, I could not believe it. The other lady, the first flight, super nice. She goes, I don't know why this happens. I apologize. Blah, 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 blah. This woman didn't want nothing to do with it. And it was early in the morning. I know she had 5 or 6 more hours to go, but she was just not having it.
Isn't that amazing?
Not having it.
Isn't that amazing? Sometimes you say to yourself, this will not go sideways on me because this is a big business and they have ways of doing things. And it's so surprising when one person says, yeah, I don't feel like that. And goes against the system of their own company. That is amazing.
And you're terrified. You're terrified because you're at an airport.
Right.
If you get frustrated or you even start to raise your voice, you're in cuffs, baby. You're going out the door.
That's right.
Like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Here's my question. All right, if I've got a business and I see a person that has zero personality, they're frying the fries. Okay, you are frying the fries. You're not talking to the public. If I'm in the airport and I got somebody that has absolutely no personality, hey, you're slinging some bags here. You go sling bags because I need that front guy and woman. I need them to be happy and making everybody feel good because it's otherwise it's not really working out.